Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Evergrande is officially bankrupt. So what's next for gold and silver? Well, first we have to answer another question. Let's explore! Indeed, apparently, Evergrande is officially having gone under. It's bankrupt. The Chinese property company called Evergrande has officially gone under and is defaulting on much of its debt. It's the first sentence in a headline from USA Watchdog.com, a site that's associated with Greg Hunter. And I don't know a whole lot about Greg Hunter, but I watched a little bit of the associated video with this, and I think there may be a little bit of maybe fear-mongering here to a degree, and I don't mean that in necessarily a negative way. We always have to be careful and be cautious, but we don't want to sell fear either, something that may or may not happen. So I'm approaching this with a bit of skepticism. You know, I'm a bit of a contrarian anyways, but nonetheless, this was shared with me by Rocky Superstar, and I very much appreciate him sharing this and other information with me on these kinds of matters. But this is something. China is in trouble, and it's interesting that there's a lot of demand for gold and silver in China, and maybe that is part and parcel to what's going on with stagflation, which is happening there. And so with Evergrande now officially gone under, according to Greg Hunter's source, it's not being talked about a lot in the media, but let's read this and see what we can take from it and what it means for gold and silver, and answer that other question, which I think needs to be answered first before we find out what's going to happen with gold and silver. The legacy financial media lied and told investors that the company was making interest payments when it was clearly not. Now, I remember reporting on this and saying they had 30 days in order to make some payments that they were due. Maybe that time has passed. I don't know. But so what's going to happen now? It's only a matter of time before the global economy takes a big hit. That is the other question. And apparently, Mr. Hunter believes it's going to happen automatically because Evergrande is gone under. Evergrande is a huge company, no doubt about it. It's a huge property company, and a lot of Chinese companies are operating with a lot of derivatives, a lot of debt, operating under debt, and this kind of defaulting could take a big hit within China because Evergrande's reach does not really go much outside of its borders. So this is why a question as to the domino effect that could take place, which is what Greg Hunter and others believe that's going to happen. And this could be the beginning of that domino effect. The knock-on effect will be stunning for the unprepared, he says. This event is something you best take notice of. You have been warned is the takeaway here. And yes, it's always good to be warned, and there's a lot of different things that are happening in the economy. Any one of these can be the Archduke Ferdinand moment, right? The Archduke Ferdinand assassination in and of itself wouldn't be that big of a deal. But you know what? There's a lot of psychology in the markets. So this could be something that Greg Hunter is correct about. But it may not. In and of itself, I don't think this is going to be the trigger for a global economic downturn. Well, we already kind of are in a global economic downturn to a degree anyways, but like a massive collapse or a global recession is, I think, what he's referring to here. The Fed is between a rock and a hard place. It either stops the bond market buying and the market crashes, or they keep printing cash and inflation will crash the markets. Either way, the markets are going to crash if the entire financial system does not implode first. Again, you have been warned, he says. And I don't think it's quite that simple. I think there's other factors that come into play here, and the resiliency of the dollar is something that cannot be understated enough here. We can be free to print to infinity, it seems like, with a strong dollar index, even in an inflationary environment. Now it is bad, it's getting worse, and it's not transitory, and we know why it's happening, but it is not hyperinflation. It is not runaway inflation. It is, obviously it's worse than they expected, but nonetheless, there's a lot of things still going for the dollar. Do not count the dollar out yet. And by the way, if it does get worse, well, they will just implement their reset strategy. I believe they've already been working on it. They probably already have something ready to go. They're just not really telling us in case of an emergency, because it's all about faith. Fiat faith. We all have faith in fiat. Whether you like it or not, we do. And that's really the bottom line, is the faith in fiat. Fiat dollar bill, the Federal Reserve notes that you carry in your wallet with you every day, have lost 1% of their value in the last 30 days. That's the rapid pace of inflation that we are living in now. But we have faith in it. We will continue to have faith in it until we don't, or until it gets reset. But you know what? For those of us in this community, it's much different and where we place our faith. More on that in a moment. But there is a bright spot, and that is Bitcoin and gold prices. Now, he lumps Bitcoin in there with gold. And yes, Bitcoin is decentralized. It is essentially can be used as a currency system, but it is a highly speculative asset class, a digital asset class. Gold is something else, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. He says they are up and going higher. They smell trouble, and people are running for cover. They didn't smell much trouble today, though. He says the move is just getting started. So interesting article here. Fascinating take on this. I think it's a little bit of trigger happy and towards or reactive to what's going on. But let's talk a little bit about gold and silver to a degree, because as I've recorded this video, well, both these metals are down slightly. They're down a little bit today. Not terribly much, but enough to, especially silver, down over 1%, which is a fairly big drop. Gold, not much there at all. The gold to silver ratio now is above 73. It was 73 earlier, got into the low 73s with a recent rise in gold and silver prices. Now they've subsided a bit here, and they could subside even more, correcting their recent gains. Correction in the market. But so far, with Evergrande, with that news of Evergrande, and by the way, here's a screen grab from a video of the source that he's given for this. Officially bankrupts today, and what it means to you, the final meltdown of the global financial system, from Dr. Marco Metzler. Again, is that fear-mongering? I'm leaning more towards yes, it is fear-mongering. But nonetheless, I think it's good to document what's happened today, or Friday in this case. Not much talk about it by the mainstream financial press, but sooner or later something like this, if it does snowball in China, well, they will talk about it. And we talk about it here, but we talk about it based off of given an idea of what the given perspective. You know, we talked earlier about faith in fiat. And faith in fiat is something we all have, whether we hold gold and silver or not. But what else do we have faith in? Well, it is without a doubt that we have faith in God's money. We have faith in silver and gold. Silver we hold because it is self-evident. It is a metal that has served as a stabilizing force in the monetary system. Hence, sound money. Sound money is silver and gold. And gold is being used right now, at this very moment, as money for transactions between central banks and the Bank of International Settlements, recognized as a tier 1 asset for trade between these banks. And but nonetheless, they hold it, they store it, and there's even stores of silver as well. And we stack silver because in the long run, silver and gold, they preserve your wealth. They work against inflation, and we have faith in them as monetary metals and stores of value, and value being something different than price. And so even when the prices go down today, well, it's about the long-term proposition for gold and silver, and that is the realization of its value in spite of price, which is anecdotal, or the antithesis, rather, of how many people measure things, because especially when you have Bitcoin going sky high and you make bukus of money, massive profits, massive gains off of essentially a digitized form of currency, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Well, gold and silver don't seem all that attractive. They don't pay dividends. They're not really there. That's not their purpose. But what are they? They're monetary metals that have served that for thousands of years, and believe it is something that we should hold as wealth preservation tools, and that's really what it's about. And that means that even though we may have this faith in fiat, we're losing faith in its. We've lost faith in them as in the dollars as being preservation devices. Saving money is a losing proposition these days. There's no question. When you save the money in terms of Federal Reserve notes, that's not a very good way to preserve your wealth. Gold and silver over the long term is a great way to preserve your wealth. And I believe it is incumbent upon us, especially after seeing inflation doing what it does, stories like this about Evergrande officially bankrupt. Well, it's just another catalyst. It's just another thing that could have an impact on the Chinese economy, which we know could impact us and the world economy as a proxy. But nonetheless, we shouldn't bet on it or even really hope for it. The best thing we can do is just be prepared, regardless of where this story goes, regardless of the impact of Evergrande and what happens there or what the Chinese government does about it. In a sense, it matters, but then again, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So my advice to all of us is when we see headlines like this, be careful. Take it for a grain of salt. I'm taking it serious enough that it could be right in terms of his synopsis on this and where we're going, but I tend to shy away from things that say, hey, the sky is falling right now. Be careful. Even in this day and age when there's a lot more evidence of it now more than ever before, there are things that could turn around. And so we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, there you have it. Gold and silver, metals that have stood the test of time and will continue to do so. All we can do is just hang in there and keep what we have stacked. And if you can afford to get a little more, it may not be a bad idea. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.